Welcome, Kate, to the Mind Body Home podcast. It's so great to have you here, finally connecting face to face. How are you doing today?
Good. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. I've been following you a little bit, kind of quietly. I have some old resources you provided because I think it's always been a little bit of a dream of mine to build something someday. And I found your work just through the things I search, all of the things, right? All the things Mind Body Home.
Yeah.
Um, We are actually renting right now because as I was just talking to you about, we've moved quite a bit in the last 2 years, so we're kind of finding our footing. But we're starting to think about, do we wanna buy a piece of property and start fresh? Do we wanna, renovate something? I think that regardless of what we do, we wanna do it very mindfully. So, I know you have a lot of resources to offer people, and that's what we're gonna dive into today.
Yes. Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to kick things off with looking beyond aesthetics. I think this will resonate with the audience greatly because, you know, that's pretty much the first place someone who's looking to renovate or even just redesign their space. They're going to turn to online media, social media, Pinterest, right? They're probably going to do that even before they contact a professional. So you recently wrote a blog post that I really appreciated. It was why beautiful design isn't always good design. And it really resonated with me because when I was practicing interior design alone, that was a really big hurdle for me to sort of overcome with clients because it was really hard to get them to get to the core as to why they liked a certain image that they found. And, all those, Pinterest, social media, they're all really great tools to kind of
hmm
juices flowing, but they often fail to allow the homeowner to really clarify their own why, right? Their own design preferences, the mood or the feelings that they want to invoke in their space. What are their daily routines and what are some of the long-term maintenance goals of a design that looks like the picture they're showing you, right? So while all these things are great tools, it's really helpful to have a well-rounded view of what it takes to accomplish that look and some of the other things that you really need to consider. And I love how you referenced in that blog as the Debbie Downer of home design. Made me chuckle. Um, Share a little bit more about that because I think it's really important to drive that home for people who are looking to redesign, redecorate, renovate, or even build.
Yeah, definitely. So I know it's funny. As I was, the what stemmed that blog post was an Instagram post I did about how you shouldn't put showers in, or you shouldn't put windows in showers. Like as cool as they look, basically they'll always get moldy and can really just deteriorate and ruin the structure of your home. On top of air quality and all that other stuff. And the amount of feedback I got, they're like, "Oh, no, really?" Like, everybody was just so sad to hear this. I'm like, "Oh, yeah." I just ruin everybody's good day when I talk about the practicalities of design. And actually what stemmed that Instagram post was somebody it was another architect or designer's Instagram post about this beautiful shower with a beautiful window in it. And I was just like, "Oh, well, I just wish people would know that what you see isn't always going to be what's best for your home, for your health, for your comfort, and also for the planet for sure. I focus a lot on sustainability, so making sure that the planet is healthy, not just the people on it. We all need to be healthy together. So those are all the factors that I'm thinking about as I'm designing. And when I just see something that is pretty and I dive deeper into the cost that comes with that pretty picture, I start revealing all the things that might be wrong with it, and then I am the Debbie Downer.
And I think maybe even a good segue into that is something that you talk about often too is experiential design, how there's other factors that we can sort of pull in to create this bigger picture of what you're trying to create.
Yes, experiential design. When I was in college, I was, obsessed with this, idea of phenomenology. So phenomenological architecture is really just designing with all the senses, and so I've always carried that through my practice of, I mean, just talking about aesthetics, that is the first thing that we see. So it is what most people focus on, everybody, whether you're an architect, designer, just a person, that's the first thing we see, so that's what gets us really excited. But as soon as that awe of seeing it is over, there are all the other senses that we're still experiencing the building with. Um, and if those experiences aren't good, then it's really going to deteriorate your your ability to function and be happy and comfortable in a home specifically, but really applies to all building. But yeah, so this idea of experiential design is about using your senses beyond vision is certainly a part of it, but working with your, the sounds, with smells, with the way things feel. I can go into, I like creating this scenario of when you're arriving at your home and all the different things that you could potentially be experiencing, but beyond what your house looks like. So I think about if you're coming home or maybe a visitor is coming to your house and they have to drive there, they pull in, park outside. They're not parking in a garage, but outside. And, as soon as they open the door, they smell the flowers that are blooming in your yard. And then they start walking to your door and it's a crushed stone pathway. So they're hearing the crunch of the stone as they walk towards your house. And it just connects them to everything that's around them. It makes them aware of the moment that they're in right there and places them. So it gives you the sense of groundedness. And then you can keep going. Like as you walk in, maybe you have a wooden handrail that you're walking up the steps to the front door. And so you hold the handrail and you feel that natural wood in your hand. When you walk in, you can like carry that outside into your house. And so you walk into the house and you're filled with natural light. So you're continuing to have that wonderful daylight that's outside, bringing it in, just bringing in other feelings of nature. Maybe there's a smell in there, like cedar when you first walk in, and you get that hit of cedar that you smell. So it's like you're creating an experience for yourself or for anybody coming to your home that is so beyond just what it looks like. And it really plants you in that time. It holds you there, I guess. You don't get lost in the future of, whatever else you're thinking about. So that's the idea of phenomenology is that it allows you to experience space and time and be present.
I like how you sort of tie it into nature, which you're really good at doing. I also like to think of it like connecting with, a really luxury hotel stay. Hotels are really good at doing that and,
Yeah.
activating all of your senses. We just stayed at the Palms Hotel in Miami and, it's called the Palms. So, of course, visually, everything's decorated. It's Miami. So it's like this art deco and palm trees collaboration. And they like did it in a really beautiful way, but it was also a hotel and spa. So when you walk in, like, you just smell spa.
Mm.
And the spa was an Aveda spa, so it was probably some sort of Aveda product, but it is just pumping through, the whole hotel, the lobby, and then there's just the music that's playing. It's just low, but it's kind of resorty, like, you're on vacation. So that's, like, a really good example of how to infuse that in your home, and when I think of, like, the hotel experience, I sort of, help clients create that for their bedrooms or their bathroom. There's nothing more relaxing than staying in a really luxury hotel, and so create that right in your own home, in your bedroom,
Right.
on your nightstand even, just having a what do they call it? Turn down service. Doing that at your own home, like getting in there, dimming the lights, putting on an oil diffuser, and when you go in there an hour later, like, it's so welcoming and you're ready for bed. So it's about
Yeah.
with, this engagement of senses. So I love that. I love the whole concept of this.
Yeah, and, I know you mentioned how I connected a lot of it to nature, and that's a lot of what I've really been focusing on more recently and just probably, like, the past 8 or 10 years or so in this wellness-focused design is how can we it's called biophilic design, and all it is just designing with a connection to nature. So we design our buildings so that we feel like we're still connected with nature even though we're inside because we all have this innate sense and need to be outdoors. And it just helps us be happier and healthier and just enjoy life more.
Yeah,
um,
my training is in feng shui, which,
mhm,
being in harmony with nature because nature isn't really something outside of us. Like, we are a part of it, right? And so there is,
right.
you were saying, like, this instinctual just belonging to it. And so we've sort of conditioned ourselves to live in these boxes with like poor air quality and like lack of lighting. And so there is this, I think, I can't think of the right word. There's this desire now that I think is stronger than ever as humans that we are desiring, like that's why you're seeing wellness design and
Yeah.
Celia design, and you're seeing all these things that seem to be trending, but I think they're really just a way of going back to what we really are meant to, like how we are really meant to live, right?
Right. Yes, we figured out what we need to really be happy, and it's nature. Yeah.
You focus on designing homes that promote wellness and holistic living, obviously. Um, of course, we're all about that here on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's clear that, you share the same sentiment that your home can support you mentally, physically, even emotionally, that your home environment has a direct impact on you and your family and anyone who's living with you, right? That a thoughtfully designed home helps us relax, it nourishes us, it helps us sort of reconnect and restore. I'd love to hear a little bit more of your perspective on this. Maybe you even have your own definition, sort of what mind, body, home means.
Well, I don't know if it's a good definition, but I have a framework that I use that helps. So, as an architect, like designing a home, there's a lot to think about. And especially if you're designing a home that is nourishing your body, your mind, and the earth, and all the people living on the earth, too. It's not just how we're treating ourselves living in the house, it's really making sure that we're doing things that are also making sure and nobody else is negatively impacted on this planet from the choices that we're making. So it goes deep. But I have the framework that I use called the 10 healthy home elements. And this is basically like almost like a checklist that I use to make sure that I'm really thinking about all the things that are going to help our minds, our bodies in our homes. And I can just list through them really quickly. It would take me a long time to like go into all of them, but I'll just throw them out there. So the elements are air, so good air quality, water, good water quality. Those are like the fundamentals that we know we have to have for healthy living conditions. Then light, having good light quality in our house, whether it's natural light or the artificial light that we're bringing in, because that plays a huge factor in our moods, how we're sleeping, how we're eating, everything. And then comfort. Comfort is our thermal comfort, so how hot and cold it is in the house, the smells that we're smelling, the noises, the environmental condition, how we're feeling in our house. There's also nourishment. So, like for people that are just happen to be, if they're only like renovating a kitchen, you can actually design your kitchen so it helps you or it encourages you to eat healthier food or just be more mindful in the way that you eat. There's also movement. You can design your house so that you are encouraging more movement in your day with all sorts of ways of doing that. Then there's mind. So mind would be the well-being factor, and a lot of that is bringing in nature and just creating spaces that are calm and clutter-free and just allowing us to be present and be comfortable. Safety, and that's just making sure that our house is safe, like no tripping hazards for not falling down the stairs, those kind of things. And then we have planet, so making sure that we're incorporating sustainable design features and we're doing things to help the planet be healthy. And community is the last one. So that's what I was just talking about, where we want to make sure that we're supporting both our local community. So the things that we're choosing to do when we're building or renovating is supporting whether it's local employment or materials, just helping the community members thrive. And then that can go further and further out to the community of the world. So,
I love that. I think you've really intentionally checked all the boxes, that
yeah.
that one should think about regardless of what their plans are as far as, building or, renovating. I kind of want to go back to the kitchen one. I know you don't have to go through them all, but I'm curious how you like what are some suggestions? Like how would you do a kitchen renovation that supports more mindful eating and a more healthy way of living?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is just making sure your kitchen is a place you want to be in. Like so many times, the kitchen is further away from windows, or there's no natural light, or it's small and cramped, and you just don't want to be in there. So when you're in a kitchen, when you have a space that you don't want to be in, you're less likely to be prepping. Like for me, at least, meal prep is the way I can manage to eat healthfully. So if you don't want to spend 2 hours in your kitchen on a weekend, then you're never going to be meal prepping. So just creating a kitchen that is welcoming, that has a connection to outdoors, or if you can't do that, if you're just doing, a small upgrade to a kitchen, maybe you're just bringing in natural elements because when you're, designing to with that connection to nature, you don't have to be like physically bringing in plants or physically being able to see outside, but you can bring in elements like wood cabinets or countertops or stone floors, or if you're redoing your island and you wanted to have curves on it, like that organic shape even helps your mind think of nature. So bringing that natural makes it feel calmer and more inviting, making sure that the layout is really good. So you have enough room to prep and you're not cramped and uncomfortable in there, or like your prep space is so far away from your sink or something or your stove, and it's just annoying to be working in. It's all these little things that add up to a really functional kitchen. And if you have a functional kitchen, you might not even notice that those things are happening. You're just like easily moving from, prepping all your veggies to the sink, to the stove, or whatever it is. But when you have a kitchen that isn't well laid out or that's cramped, you will get irritated every time you're in there and discouraged from being in there. So that's a big part of it, just the layout and the feeling that the space has. And then there's also like even the type of refrigerator you have. So I love having the French door refrigerators where the freezer's on the bottom so that when you open the refrigerator, you're looking at all your fresh veggies because those veggie drawers are now at eye level. Whereas if you have one where your veggie drawers are at the very bottom next to the floor, which is what we just had before we moved into our new house, I mean, the amount of waste I would have, food waste because I would just never see it, or it'd get like shoved to the back or whatever it is. So it's just all these little things that allow you to start creating healthier habits.
Yeah. No, I love the wanting to be in there, enjoying being in there. We did a bathroom renovation and we had a 1950s, like, mint green tile with, like, black accents, you know what I'm talking about, like, very vintage bathroom, and it was just, some of the tiles were, like, cracked and, a lot of the stripping was real, like, worn, and it was just kinda gross, honestly. It was, like, kind of like it just needed updated bad, and I remember, like, I never wanted to be in there. Like, it was just, you know, get a shower, brush my teeth, get the heck out of there. And when we renovated that, I always wanted to be in there. I was taking more baths, like, it was just a place I wanted to be, and so
Yeah.
there is something to be said about, just more of, like, I think what I'm trying to say is we don't always have the means or the budget to, like, do a renovation, but you almost have to take into consideration not just your financial well-being, but also, like, how is that playing on you emotionally and mentally too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the big things, with if you have the means to do, a build or a renovation, that needs to start there. But if you do, when you start thinking incorporating these healthy features, are less likely to be getting sick in the future or having medical bills or missing time at work, like all these things that will impact your actual money in the future. So,
Absolutely.
um,
It's funny that we're talking about food and stuff because I think about that with food, like how sometimes the cheaper food is the worst for us. And, for so long, I'd be like, why is like good food so expensive? Like, why should it cost me this much to shop at Whole Foods or Sprouts when it's like I'm getting a little bit better quality? But it's kind of like the mindset shift for me was it's pay for it now or pay for it later, right?
yeah.
Kind of the same in design and building too. It's like really focusing on, some of the materials you're using, how are they impacting your health now and in the future, and like you said, the planet. So yeah, it's just about being more intentional, I think, with what you want and what you expect long term too, because I think we tend to think in like the short term.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that, like, taking your time, that's, like, the biggest struggle for me personally is I'm in a rush to do everything.
Yes.
But when you do slow down and take your time and really be intentional, think about what you wanna bring into your home, then you're going to get it right.
I'm a big rusher too. I want it all done and I want it done now. Well, I used to be. I've done a big slowdown in my life overall. So I'm
That's
starting to
good.
go into like different areas now. So it's interesting that that's coming up again because I was just pondering on that and it's like totally different subject on the, subject of slowing down. Well, we touched on materials and I kind of want to just wrap up there, I think, and their impact on our personal health and that of the planets, which you're very passionate about. I found this somewhat frustrating as a designer in my early years when I was working with clients. Homeowners wanted affordability because of, budgets can easily get way out of scope. And, contractors wanted easy installation, right? So, a good example for me was clients that wanted to put new flooring in. And right away, the contractor was like, let's do LVP. And I'd be like, I really want to do a hardwood, And so there was always this butting of the heads because I'm a naturalist. I want to use natural, like organic materials as much as possible. I don't really want to put plastic in homes, things like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, that was always something I was up against. So maybe I'm pulling it back the curtain a little bit here on contractors, because it's like they gotta do like what's easy and what, provides a better profit margin for them, whatever the case may be. But it's
Right.
funny because like I was saying with the food, sometimes the cheap materials, they're not what's best for us. And I'm not like giving LVP a bad name. There are some brands that are trying to do better with it, but
Yeah.
I'm just using it for an example. Um, but not everybody prioritizes, quality, healthy, sustainable materials. So how do you suggest homeowners begin to like educate themselves? I mean, you're going to have that client that just knows that that's important to them and that's what they want. But I think there's also a really big population of people who, they hear these words and they sound like buzzwords and they haven't really thought about it. So I think it's really great to whenever we have the opportunity to educate that we do that. What are some of your suggestions on how to just get started, how to start educating yourself, being more mindful about what's in your home now and maybe even some improvements you can make if you don't have a renovation or a build coming up now? What can you do now?
Yeah, so good question. It is as far as just educating people, like I think as much as the people that are the experts in it, the more that we can get out there and share the information, the better, and making sure that people are going to trusted professionals that really know. But then as far as starting out, it can be very confusing to try to find healthy materials because there is so much greenwashing still, like or well, health washing. There'll be vital companies saying that their products are green and healthy for you, even though they off gas and are terrible for the planet. But I would say like the easiest thing to do is stick with natural products if you can. Natural products, unfortunately, are always going to be generally the most expensive. So materials is one of those places where you're probably going to be spending more money than if you went with a non-healthy product. So when you're doing that, you are starting to have to weigh the pros and cons or your priorities, I guess, of what's going to be more important to bring in healthy materials or to get more of something. And that's usually what it comes down to. And I know this sounds discouraging, so this probably isn't very helpful. But for those that are like, "Ah, I don't really care that much." But I was saying, if you don't really care that much, it is helpful to educate yourself on why it's important because even though the air quality in your home, it sucks because it's like you can't see it. So you don't know how bad it is, but it is generally not good unless you have purposefully brought in things into your house, the products in your house that aren't off gassing and having fresh ventilation systems in your home. That's when your air quality is going to be good. Otherwise, there's stuff in your house that is always going to be off gassing. So the biggest things to really focus on are flooring because you basically want to look at anything that has a big surface area because that's if it is a harmful product, it is going to be off gassing the most because there's tons of surface area where the fumes will be coming off of it. So flooring, paint for walls and ceilings, and your cabinets and countertops are another big one. Paint, luckily, everybody knows to get low VOC paint, but we really want to be focusing on zero VOC paint. So there's still a lot of chemicals and off-gassing and low VOC, and you don't have to pay that much more, if anything at all, for like, there's really not much of a premium for zero VOC healthier paint options now. So if you're going to be repainting your home, just get that paint because it's not going to be costing you more. And then with flooring, solid hardwood floor is really a great option for not having chemicals coming out of it, but that's very expensive. So there are other options like linoleum, that is a sheet product, kind of is very similar to vinyl, except that it's natural. It's made out of linseed oil, and it just feels so much better when you're walking on it than when you're walking on a plastic vinyl floor. And it's about the same cost as the LVP, or even less than the nicer quality of vinyl. So there are products out there that are natural or that are less harmful that, you can easily start bringing into your house, because it is so much easier to find that stuff now. There's the Healthy Materials Lab that the Parsons School of Design puts out. They are an absolute awesome resource. You just go to the Healthy Materials Lab website. It has countertops and it has flooring, and they list actual products that you can find. There are some good resources out there, and there's more companies caring about this stuff because there's more consumers that are asking for it. And that's really the only way that the change is happening, is because consumers are demanding this stuff and they're paying for it. And I think the more that we spread the word, the more that homeowners and consumers are buying this stuff, the lower the cost will be for these more natural and healthy products. And then more people will be able to afford them. So it's a slow process, but change is happening.
Yeah, yeah, I can see it too, and so I guess the takeaway there is really find someone to help if you're curious and you just don't know where to start because like you said, the information out there is overloaded and you have to be, mindful of your resources. And if you're going to invest in a renovation or a build, that really prioritizing the materials is a huge importance because again, pay for it now or pay for it later. And I also, when you were talking about the air quality and you can't see it, but it's still affecting you. For my audience, it's like I talk about this all the time, you guys. It's, I work with energy and you can't see energy. And just because you can't see it doesn't mean it can't be felt. And the same thing is happening to your body, like, on a cellular level, like, you don't know it's happening, but over time, it has a huge effect.
Yeah.
So, yeah, love having people on that share the same, like, desire for getting the information out there. So thank you, Kate, I appreciate
Yeah. Yeah,
it.
definitely.
You offer 2 pathways for people to work with you, right? You have a custom design option, and then you have a guided self-study course, is that right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So if you're in New England or Colorado, actually, those are I used to live in Colorado, so I started there and now I'm here. But those are kind of my two custom design locations. But for all homeowners or people that are about to or want to start the new build or renovation journey, I do have a DIY course, the Sustainable Home Blueprint course. And that's right on my website that people can find out about. But also and I just created this back a couple months ago, this 4-day challenge. It's like the Sustainable Home Kickstart, basically. It's an email challenge where every day for 4 days, you get an email sent to you, and there's a link to a video. The videos are 10 minutes long each day, but it walks you through like 4 really key things to get started. So if you're starting on this or even in the middle of it and you're like feeling a little lost, if you are building a home or doing a renovation, it's a really great thing to go back to. And the challenge just gets you really clear on your goals and your vision, like why you're doing this project of yours. And then it helps you understand what the most important healthy and sustainable design features are, and that will fit within your budget. So you're working on budget. You're looking at schedule so you don't feel overwhelmed because you understand what's going to happen when throughout the whole design process. And then finally, you leave the challenge with your next 3 steps tailored to what you're specifically doing. So you can leave the challenge knowing what's ahead of you and what you need to do. So just having that clarity and confidence to like move forward with your renovation or your new build. So,
I'll make sure to get that link from you, and we'll share it in the show
oh,
notes, along with your website so people can check out your course if they're interested in that, or if they're in Colorado or New England, they can connect with you there. I like that 4-day challenge. I like the reconnecting them back to their why because as you and I both know, in a design project, it can start, building the momentum and the decision fatigue that sets in. It's always good to kinda come back to center.
exactly.
Why you're doing this in the first place.
Right.
There's gonna be bumps and overwhelming moments, but yeah, I love that you incorporate that there. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. I call it your beacon. So you always like it guides you through this whole long process. But and my website is balancedarchitecture.com.
Amazing. Thank you, Kate. I wish
Yeah.
all that for people to find you,
Awesome.
and thank you so much. What a lovely
Yeah.
conversation. It was so great having you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Access to Kate's course and her 4-day challenge are available in today's show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube in the video description. If you're curious about the window in the shower post, you can check it out on Instagram at balanced_architecture, also linked below. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Go ahead and give Kate a follow on Instagram. And while you're there, follow me as well and send me a DM. Has today's conversation inspired you to take a more mindful approach to your upcoming renovation or custom build? Let me know. Lastly, if you're enjoying this podcast or YouTube channel, there are so many ways you can help support it. You can share this video or any episode with a friend and subscribe to us on YouTube. The absolute best way to support me is to write a positive review. On Apple Podcasts, just scroll down to the bottom of our show page and you'll see Write a Review highlighted in purple. On Spotify, it's as simple as clicking those stars. And on YouTube, positive comments are always welcomed. I'll have another guest interview coming up for you soon. I hope you're enjoying your summer. Until next time, my friends, so much love and gratitude.